That's funny. Guys ready? Let's call the meeting to order.
Colonel Evans?
Here.
Mr. Grozan?
Here.
Mrs. Ludwig?
Here.
Mr. Miko?
Here.
Mr. Naso?
Here.
All present.
Stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. District goals. We always talk about our goals at every meeting. The first goal is student achievement, and that's our number one goal, to make sure that we maximize the education and make sure that our children are prepared and ready to go into the world, whatever path that might be, whether it's college, whether it's the military, whether it's right into the job force, wherever that is, we want to make sure that they're ready to go. So we focus and we work hard at that. The second goal is financial prudence. This is where we try to take every tax dollar and maximize the educational value for every student and employee. So we work with that, and we try to make sure that we're prudent and we're careful in what we do. And then the final one is community engagement. With that, we utilize our community and their incredible talents and generosity to come and work with our students, come with our staff, advise us on things. And it's been extremely successful, and we look forward to more and more of that. So thank you with that. Brings us to recognition. I don't believe we have any recognition tonight. Superintendent's report to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Naso and board. Want to spend the time on the report to the community to follow up on some information and requests from the board about a month ago on student vaping and where we're at as a school district in terms of offenses we've had, consequences, progressive discipline, education component, and recommendations for where we go from here. So with that, I've got some slides that will be on the board over there for you to kind of see the information as we go throughout. So the first thing we did is we took a look at vaping offenses over the last handful of years. This is all vaping offenses. So we had the high school and middle school went through the data. The way we classify things according to rules, we had to actually go through and move some of these out to get to this. So as you can see, vaping has, especially at the high school level, been a compounding problem in terms of offenses. So you can see 4 years ago, we had 3, then it went up to 48, then 71 offenses last year. And then the 2019-20 is up until 2 days ago when Adam and his high school colleagues updated the information. So far at the high school, we've had 4 offenses that have been found out by the administration and consequenced. And at the middle school, we've had no offenses. So that kind of gives you a big picture view of the progression of that. At the middle school level, again, similar data 4 years ago, relatively flat growth for the past 2 school years, and there's been no offenses so far this school year. Also to note, if you look at the 2018-19 data, I believe it was about halfway through the year last year, the high school came to me and said that they were concerned with the growing pattern of students that were vaping at the high school and that they would like permission to go ahead and alter the consequences. So consequences, the board approves our student code of conduct. That gives the rules and the guidelines. The consequences that we enact because of those are district decisions. And so they made a proposal, I agreed to that, and basically they took that consequence for student vaping and changed it from an in-school suspension to a 3-day out-of-school suspension. Looking at what that has done at the end of last year, plus only 4 instances this year, offenses this year, it appears that we're on the right track. As you can see in the yellow boxes, we take a look at where is this most happening in our schools, both middle school and high school, is the restroom is the most frequent location. For privacy reasons, they know that's a spot where there's going to be limited monitoring, but what the high school staff and middle school, but specifically at the high school, they've created that a part of their duty rotation. So we have male monitors or staff making trips into the male bathrooms. We have female staff members making trips into the bathrooms just to be a deterrent, and that's worked as well. And the other part is we also want to look at, do we have students repeating the same offenses over and over, our goal is to educate students and to help support them to have positive behavior choices moving forward. So in terms of vaping, there has been limited repeat offenders. So just want to start with the baseline of offenses over the past 4 years. Any questions on this data before I move on to the next aspect?
Nope.
Okay, the next part is we asked to bring back is what is the progressive discipline plan for tobacco vaping? So as you know, as you may know, there is vaping available that's sold that has no nicotine, no any drugs. It's a gateway for kids, unfortunately, to start vaping. It's fruit flavored. And if you paid attention, the city council passed an ordinance recently that made it illegal kids under 18 to have any vaping product. That's what it was targeting. As you may have heard on the news or know, that today was the official first day that you have to be 21 to purchase tobacco products or vaping products with the biennium budget bill going into place. But that's the additional part that the city of Strongsville put into place, and we appreciate that. So if you are vaping a tobacco product at the middle school, the first event is a 3-day, we call it corrective learning. It's an in-school suspension. It's a social consequence. Students come to our school. They go into an area where they're by themselves under the supervision of an adult. They're not going to classes with the other kids. They get their coursework in that setting, and they complete that coursework in a different environment than their typical day, as well as they would receive a citation from the Strongsville Police Department. But now a citation means that they have to go to court. There's a fine associated with that. So no matter what, first offense, 3 days of in-school suspension and a citation from the police department. Any subsequent offenses is 4 to 10 days of in-school suspension. So basically, we add a day for every repeat offense, and a citation is still a part of that. If we look at the high school, this is where I was talking about where we increased our consequences halfway through the year. It kind of parallels, instead of in-school suspension, it's the same pattern except out-of-school suspension. Just so everybody's aware, we did this in district policy before law mandated it, but law mandates that students that are suspended must get credit for all of their academic work. So when students are suspended, you can't recreate the 3 days that they missed, but there is no academic consequence to it. They get all their work. If they turn it in when they return, they get credit for it. But they get a 3-day out-of-school suspension plus the citation from the police. And the subsequent offenses are the same, of progressing through out-of-school suspension. The only difference is that at the high school level, there is the possibility of expulsion. What that means is a principal at a building level only has the authority to remove students that are not protected by under a 504 or an IEP for a maximum of 10 days at a time. So that's all that they can, consequence that they can give. If they feel the behavior is such the extent or the offenses are repeated enough, they can recommend expulsion, which is a meeting with the parents and with me. And I'm the only one in the district that has the authority to enact an expulsion, and I can remove students for up to 80 additional school days. It's a devastating consequence. It's something that is one of my least favorite parts of my job, but as we look at what's in the well-being of the students and the overall school district, sometimes that has to happen. I believe last year we had one student that got to my level of a possible expulsion because of repeated vaping. So that's something that can happen as well. And also athletes, we do have an athletic code of conduct. So besides the school consequences, if a student is an athlete and is caught with vape paraphernalia or vaping, there could be additional consequences in accordance with the athletic code of conduct. I'm going to keep going unless
Please.
Well, I have a question for you,
Sure.
Cameron. Does that mean, are you reading it correctly, that you could have 6 additional offenses to get to 10 days of out-of-school suspension?
You could, but typically the pattern that the high school uses is 3, 5, 10, and a recommendation for expulsion. So in practice, yes, they have some flexibility there, but the typical pattern is you get 2 offenses that are handled at the high school with a 3-day suspension and then a 5-day suspension. And then the third offense is typically a 10-day suspension with a recommendation for expulsion.
Okay.
Now, moving on, I was asked by the board to take a look at, well, what do we do for alcohol and drugs? And unfortunately, there's been products built to vape THC, which is a marijuana substance. And so all that goes under the same umbrella of whether it's, drinking alcohol, whatever the drugs may be, or vaping THC. The offenses are listed there, and they have parity between the middle school and high school. So if you violate our rules on those three categories, first offense is a 10-day suspension and a police citation. We also do work with the family and with the students to try and provide help and support through some resources that are there to address the usage that is happening. And then subsequent offenses are the same consequence plus the potential expulsion that comes to me. And again, athletic consequences would be put into place as well.
Cameron, I know at all the dances, we do the breathalyzers before entering the dance. Does that detect nicotine as well as the THC or anything else, or is it only alcohol that would detect? Do you know?
My understanding is that it's only alcohol.
Do they make a breathalyzer, so to speak, for these other?
The only thing,
Products?
I don't know about the
I don't believe
breathalyzers.
they do. I just had a discussion with a
not sure.
detective over the weekend. We happened to be at the same party we were talking. And he said that technology is coming along, but it's not available yet, but they expect within the next year, they'll be able to, with all the recreational marijuana states having, he
Right.
said that technology is catching up, and he thought within the next year they would have something
Well,
that would
even
be
for
able to.
traffic
Yeah.
violations and things.
Yeah, for that purpose. But then maybe we can acquire that same item then,
Yeah, right now, the only way that I know to detect it is through a traditional drug screening.
Okay, or witnessing somebody.
witnessing,
vaping.
correct.
Now, do we also monitor during like football games, at school activities that way?
Yeah, so any school activity, whether it's school buses or any district property, we do have school administration and school staff that are there. And if we get a report of a student vaping or we witness it, it's handled just in accordance with these same guidelines.
Thank you.
There was a good article in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was last Friday, and it talked a lot about that, and it said that almost all of the deaths and serious injuries, that popcorn lung, all that kind of stuff, is all from the THC vaping as opposed to the tobacco vaping. And they said because it's so unregulated, and even the feds are reluctant to regulate it because of there's so many states now, it's past the tipping point with recreational marijuana. They're afraid to insert themselves into that. They need to, and they should, but they haven't. And so this is really they're all serious, it's all terrible.
Sure.
But this is the one that could kill you. So, this is,
And just in talking in general terms, through the expulsion process, it is not just you are gone for 80 days, good luck to you. We try to use that as an avenue to, if we have to remove students, I will remove them, but how can we use requirements to put support into place? So, for example, if a student is expelled for a portion of time due to a drug offense, part of what I can enact is a monthly drug screening that needs to be presented to the district in lieu of expulsion during a certain period of time. So that helps support, that gives the family some support from the district in terms of providing that clean drug screening. It provides us helping support and making sure our students do not have any illegal substances when they're in our district. So those are things that we've used to. Maybe we're going to expel for a little bit, but if you can provide clean drug screenings and maybe get some support outside, that we can reduce those expulsions. So we do try to work with our families.
Cameron?
Yeah.
How many offenses does a student need to have before it comes to your desk? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
So with the typical non-alcohol drugs offenses, it depends on the severity.
Okay.
So there are issues where kids do stuff that is so severe, it's the first time they come see me. The principals will usually call me and we'll talk through it and determine. But there are rare instances where it's the first offense, they come see me. Unfortunately, I've had kids that have never had a detention, never had a consequence, and do something that really is not a good decision, and their first behavior disruption is coming to see me for an expulsion hearing. The typical progressive, meaning I did something a little lower level, is like 3 offenses, as I said. It's 3, 5, 10, or sometimes it's 5, 10 at the high school level, depending on the offense. For the drug offenses, it's the second offense. That, you know, we, at the level at the high school and the middle school, and to just give context, in the 5 years I've been superintendent, I've never had an expulsion for alcohol or drugs from the middle school level. I have had them at the high school level. But those come to me right away.
Okay, thank you.
So what are we doing to help support and educate our students and parents? There is DARE curriculum that specifically targets and is curriculum geared towards vaping. They link that with tobacco lessons. So our students both in 5th and 8th grade through the DARE program get targeted vaping, the dangers of vaping, different education components in that lesson. What we've done in our health curriculum in 8th grade and 9th grade is they've partnered up, in addition to what they teach, they've partnered up with our SROs. And our SROs have specific curriculum that they work with to teach in conjunction with our health teachers in the classrooms. And outside of the classroom, our school resource officers, both at the middle school and the high school, it's the Mustang Roundup at the middle school is a time where they get all the grade levels together. At the high school, we have lunch study hall times where they do presentations. They've both presented to the kids in the past school year. And then our building administration have shared resources and information through their weekly parent newsletters, as well as the high school's done some announcements to share with the students, some public service announcements to help get the word out as to some of the dangers of vaping, because in talking with our high school administrative team, you know, one of their concerns is our students, some of our students view vaping as a safe alternative. You know, they view it, hey, you know, it's been ingrained, and, you know, the American Lung Society has done a great job in all of their marketing and sharing the dangers of tobacco smoking. Their anecdotal feedback to me is our kids pretty much understand the dangers of smoking tobacco, but they do not make that correlation with the dangers of vaping and see it as a safe, maybe fun alternative to that, and don't see that there's consequences. So that's some of the work that they're trying to do. We also had, our high school did a survey of other surrounding high schools and high schools in the region. And the theme is it's a pervasive problem in high schools wherever we got the survey feedback from. It's not a Strongsville City Schools issue. It's a high school, you know, teenage, young adult issue. When we looked at school consequences, consequences range from detentions to out-of-school suspensions, but the most common consequence at the high school level that was reported to us was in-school suspension. As I talked about earlier, our first offense is a 3-day out-of-school suspension, and that has helped reduce our offenses. Police citations, most other folks are not using the police citations as a first offense. We're working with our SROs at the middle school and high school and issuing that as a first offense. And then counseling and prevention. Some other schools are using addiction counseling and educational programs in conjunction with disciplinary consequences. The high school is currently looking at this in-depth program. I think it's from the American Red Cross. It's an online education program geared towards students. So the idea would be if a student is caught violating this rule, it says right there, American Lung Association, that as an alternative or a reduction to disciplinary or police consequences, we could say, if you take this online educational class and complete it, you know, a part of the consequence could be reduced, or an alternative consequence will be given with the incentivizing to help get them some education as to what's going on and the dangers that really exist for our students that are vaping. The last thing that I just wanted to share with you is just some information as to, you know, I've shared the data and the facts of what we've done, but Adam Marino, his principal of the middle school, is here tonight, and I have a written kind of feedback from the high school. But just wanted to hear from, they're there every single day, they're working with the kids. Just wanted to hear from Adam twofold. You know, what's your what's your opinion, what's your view of vaping at the middle school, and what kind of problem is it causing? And then what can we do as a district or as a board to support your efforts at the middle school?
Well, good evening, members of the board. My perspective is I heard a lot when I first came into this position that there was an issue at the middle school. After reflecting on it, the perception were mostly people from outside the school building itself. So we're talking parents, just members of the community. So going in, I was ready to tackle this issue. I thought this was going to be a big problem. I was ready for it. As Dr. Iba just said, there has not been anything yet. So the reality is I've been there for 44 days with students. And looking at last year's data, most of the the violations happened at the second half of the school year. So February, March, April is when it really started to happen with those 17 offenses. So hasn't happened yet, which is great. I hope that GUSE continues, but the reality is that that's when they begin to explore those kinds of things. So I think a part of it, it's something that we did at the beginning of the year, knowing that there was a lot of talk about vaping. Is with the Strongsville, our school resource officer, we had a very clear opening day message of expectations. Having 3 new administrators, you need to do that anyway. But vaping was certainly one of the big topics that we talked about. So that expectation was clear to them of here's the consequence. Officer Mendici was very clear about this is the citation process, and we went into detail about the work that he did this summer and the community service that usually comes along with it, and how a lot of students, or a lot of community service over the summer were students, high school students, some middle school students. So we were pretty clear about the not only the dangers, but the effects that happens to a family and to a school. So hopefully that has an impact. Hopefully that will last, and we plan on spiraling back to that topic as Dr. Iba said, we have Mustang roundups, and we have morning announcements. So we go on and kind of circle back to some big issues. So that's one of the ones we plan on circling back to throughout the year. And then lastly, the support. It's hard to say exactly what it would be when I haven't observed it yet, but I anticipate, well, I'll say this. So I've been working with middle school students for over 13 years as a teacher, as a principal, as a father. I feel like I know a middle school mind pretty well. And I can tell you there are 2 reasons why kids do stuff, in my opinion, and that is attention and approval. They will vape at the middle school level for attention from others and to get approval from others. So if it were to happen, although most instances happen in a restroom, there are other instances that probably we did not catch. And I can tell you I guess this is the feedback that I've received, knowing I was going to talk today and asking these questions. They will do it often in a hallway. They'll do it in a crowded area. They know where the cameras are. That's why a bathroom is a place that they would often do that. But the people that don't get caught are the ones that are doing it in the hallway where there's no cameras. And in the middle school level, the stairwells have no cameras. So from my point of view, what would be most helpful for us is to know where the students are going to do it most, stairwells. And that will not only help probably eliminate some of vaping in general, but just behaviors in general as well in the hallway. So with the mindset of knowing that they're going to do that, not to do it privately by themselves. They're going to do that with others, and they're going to do it in a crowd. That's what that's why they're experimenting with it. That's why they're doing it, and that would be a good place, I think, for us to start at the middle school.
Thank you, Adam. Any questions for Adam?
So cameras in the stairwells?
I mean, that'd be
Yes.
great. I mean, it'd be
It's a lot of cameras.
3 sets of stairwells? How many sets of stairwells are
just 3 sets of stairwells. Students know where they usually are.
I'll just move it.
Thank
Okay,
you, Adam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
In terms of the high school feedback that they shared with me, they feel strongly that the work that they did last year to increase the consequences has sent a message, that students that may have pondered it understand that the consequences are there. Sometimes in schools, You have kids that are more of a magnet to this behavior. And when they see that those students are not there for X period of time, it sends a clear message that the district and the schools are serious about protecting our kids and issuing the consequences when expectations are not met. What they want to focus on is, let's see how this plays out for this first semester with having the new consequences in place, as well as working on additional partnerships to help promote education with our students. We have students that, I would classify in two categories that are vaping. We have students that, as I like what you said, Adam, of attention or approval. We have students that are addicted. They're addicted to nicotine, and it's a habit, and that, they're doing it as a part of their daily routine. They want to see if what we've done has helped alleviate some of that, but they want to provide the support to our students with a better education component, with better partnerships to help be more proactive. They feel that we're in a good spot with that reactive piece. A kid violates, we have specific consequences, they've been enacted, the message has gotten out within the student body of what those consequences are, and the behaviors have reduced. So that's the feedback from the high school. The last part we were asked about to take a look at is vape detecting devices, and so Steve did some research for us. Revere Local just put in a bunch of vaping detectors, and I know Steve, 2 companies, right? You took a look at. So just kind of broke it down. What can they detect? If you ever saw these, they basically look like a smoke detector. And what they detect is they can detect the vape, including THC, or they could detect changes in noise levels. So they can, if a noise level is, they kind of set themselves for a typical noise level, and if noise levels are escalated, it can detect that. So what it does.
Is vaping loud?
What's that?
Is vaping loud?
No, it's saying they're trying to market this as not only a vaping device, but an anti-bullying device.
Oh, okay.
So if kids are in the restroom and they're, picking on somebody or starting a fight, that noise level discrepancy would set a trigger. So what it does is when it senses the vape or the noise level, it will send a text message to whatever administrative message system you have, and it would send a notification that, hey, this detector in this bathroom tripped, and the reality for us, if you take a look at this in practice, that would mean that most likely you'd have to look at camera footage to see who was in the bathroom at that time, do our typical investigation process to see whether it was vaping or noise. What they recommend is, based on the number of stalls that you have, with us, we would need at least 2 detectors in each bathroom, 1 over the stalls and 1 over the sink. And if you look at the sample that Steve was able to find, just the cost per sensor is $950.
Cool.
So when you put that together, middle school, that would cost about $15,000 to outfit. We have 8 student bathrooms, 8 times 2 units per bathroom is $15,000. At the high school, that'd be almost $27,000. If we would then add in locker rooms, that adds another $15,000. So if we were going to outfit just the bathrooms, you're looking at about $42,000. If you want to outfit plus the locker rooms, it's a $57,000 investment for the devices that are there. And so with that is all the information that I believe was requested to share. And so any additional questions or feedback the board may have? I
like the idea of, let's see with the ramping up of the penalties to see what that gets. $60,000 to me is a lot of money for this. I mean, if the problem continues to get worse, we might have to consider that, but I'd much rather go with some kind of measured approach where we keep ramping up and we keep working on things before we throw $60,000 at it. For now, I mean, that's my thoughts. Jane?
Oh, I think we'd be better spent putting cameras in the stairwells with some money than.
Yeah, I'm with Jane on that. I
Yeah.
think we get at them as stairwell cameras.
Richard?
I'm in agreement. Just a quick question. Is cigarettes, are we dealing with them the same way as we're dealing with vaping, as far as the consequences are concerned?
No, the consequences are less than what is with vaping, and that's where we bump them up from, because as you saw in the data at the beginning, violation of our tobacco policy was nothing. We'd get one or, a couple kids a year, and then when the vaping started, it was an in-school suspension for the tobacco. They've stuck with an in-school suspension for the tobacco, and then they separated. If you look at our handbook, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I believe there's a specific rule for vaping, electronic cigarettes. Is it lumped in with tobacco, or is it separate? Okay. So, but the consequences are different for the violation, because not that any one is less dangerous than the other, but it really is a non-issue in our school district for tobacco violation.
Okay. As far as the equipment is concerned, I would caution or suggest that we go slow. I read earlier today that Jewel is discontinuing all flavored juice, I think
Yeah.
is the phrase. And with the federal government getting involved, I have a feeling that the problem may be addressed by making it illegal across the board, especially with the number of deaths that seem to be coming up. So I wouldn't want to jump on these detectors, especially based on Adam and the high school, that the issue seems to be through education taking care of itself. But I think we have a good approach, and we should continue it. And I do think the American Lung Association program is probably a wise way to go. And I would suggest we also look at the program at Hudson, where the students choose to be drug-free and use it as a certificate or a thing that they have. I think, along with the attention and the approval, I think peer pressure is a big problem, and sometimes kids need better tools to be able to respond to it. And if we can investigate and give them those tools, at the middle school or the high school, saying, "Hey, I don't want to vape. I don't want to risk my athletics, or I don't want to risk whatever. I don't want to get in trouble." I think that would be helpful.
George, you good?
Right now, I agree with Richard. I think we need to go a little bit slow with vaping and with the detectors. It's $950 we've got 8 restrooms at the middle school. That's $15,200 plus $26,600 with 14 restrooms. I just think we need to just take a break, slow down a little bit, and let's come back from Christmas and let's just see what's going on after that. If you start to see a spike in vaping charges or things like that, then maybe we need to reconsider.
Yeah. Duke,
Okay.
you good?
Yeah, I just want to see if Dr. Ryman and the guys can figure out the camera cost for your stairwells.
So what we're going to have now is every principal is going to want to come present at the board meeting,
Yes, they get stuff, yeah.
because Adam just got cameras.
Yes. Of course, you got to figure out how to pay for it out of your budget,
Yeah,
so.
they don't have stairwells.
Yeah. No, in all seriousness, we have, Steve has been working. We've known the stairwell issue, and we've been working on it. We've been looking holistically at our cameras, and every time we add a camera, it goes to a server. So it's not just adding cameras, it's server space. So that has been an area that we've been focused on, and Steve's been looking holistically. We're pretty good at the high school, right, Steve? The few areas at the middle school, but as the elementaries are another area that Steve's working on a plan for, and working on some grant dollars to try and address video surveillance at the elementary levels, as well as some spots at the middle school. So I appreciate the feedback from the board. I'll give you an update after the first of the year to let you know kind of the progressive discipline where we're at with offenses, to see if what we hope is going to be the case, that the plans and the changes that we made last year continue to make a significant difference for the health and benefit of our students.
Good
All
update,
right.
thank you.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
Okay, that brings us to your community report complete?
Yes, it is, thank you.
Okay. That brings us to public comment. We do have 3 people who wanted to have public comment today. They're going to come up together. Kathleen Cunningham, Mackenzie Cunningham, Kayleen Cunningham, excuse me, and Tammy O'Neill. They were going to come up together and talk. It's about the PE waiver. So come up, tell us your names and your addresses, and then tell us what you're thinking. You have about 3 minutes, and try to avoid names if possible.
Okay. My name is Kayleen Cunningham. My address is 20634 Wakefield Circle, Strongsville 44149. I would like to comment on Board Policy 5460 regarding graduation requirements, which follows the Ohio Revised Code for high school graduation requirements. In particular, I would like to comment on the section regarding the waiver for physical education requirement, which has recently been amended by the House Bill 166. House Bill 166 amended Ohio Revised Code Section 3313603L to add the option to allow show choir to fulfill physical education requirements. The Ohio Revised Code amendment went into effect today, October 17th, 2019. With this new law, school districts may adopt a policy to excuse a student from high school physical education requirement if the student has participated in interscholastic athletics, marching band, show choir, or cheerleading for at least 2 full seasons, or in the junior ROTC program for at least 2 full school years. Show choir was added to the list of PE waiverable activities for the physicality of its dance element. I assume that Strongsville School Board will motion in the near future to update Board Policy 5460 to also include show choir due to its dance element. I am not here to oppose this. Instead, however, I am here on behalf of our high school dance team, and I am asking that you would please also consider our high school dance team for PE waiver due to the physicality, skill, stamina, and the training hours required of these dancers. The SHS dance team practices year-round. They dedicate more than 100 hours to this school activity, which includes practices, summer choreography, community events, performances at pep rallies, basketball games, and interscholastic dance showcases. As a parent of students who have participated in high school show choir, cheerleading, dance team, I have witnessed, dance team and color guard, which also receives PE credit waiver for its affiliation with marching band. I have witnessed firsthand, and I do know the time commitment and the amount of physical activity required for all these events. And I can assure you that the dance team equally deserves the PE waiver. Other districts offer PE waiver to their dance teams. Brunswick, North Olmsted, and Avon are all operating as athletic clubs, and they are all receiving PE waiver. I am asking our school board to please consider the same for our students as well.
I just wanted to give you a background on dance team. I'm the coach. I've been the coach voluntarily for the past 3 years. I'm also a speech language pathologist in the district. I've been also coaching SHS cheerleading, and I've coached Parma Senior High color guard. This dance team began in 2002, so it's been in existence for over 17 years. We meet year-round. Like she said, over 100 hours per year, including the practices, summer choreography, all of that. We even go to competitions, showcases, all of that stuff. We also participate in community activities. We participate in the community tailgate. We had a table there, poster making for the fans of the football game. We're going to participate in the Greet and Treat this month. We hold a junior dance team clinic each year. That's where our dance team members teach young kids, so preschoolers through 8th grade it's open to, and then they get to perform with our dance team at a home basketball game. This past year we had over 60 young dancers participate, and all of their family bought tickets to that home varsity game to be able to see them perform. So that really increased ticket sales substantially. The benefits of a high school dance team go beyond just entertaining fans. It helps increase ticket sales, builds school spirit, develops leadership skills, fosters friendships, helps prepare dancers for college and professional teams, Many of our former dance team members have gone on to dance professionally and at the collegiate team level for organizations including Cleveland Cavaliers, Cleveland Indians, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, University of Cincinnati dance team, Ohio State dance team, Miami University dance team, Bowling Green State University dance team, many more. The dancers on this team engage in equal, if not more, hours of strenuous physical activity than the groups that currently are receiving the PE credit. I think it's unfair to the students, the current situation. I believe that we should be able to receive PE credit, PE waiver for high school, or for the high impact physical activity in which they engage through this team. I'm confident that we can make this happen, as we've made it happen for marching band, flag team, cheerleading, and now possibly show choir. Currently, many other districts offer PE credit to their teams. I just wanted to end with that I did reach out to several other districts to find out what it looks like in their district. There right now, so far, from the responses I've gotten, 7 schools offer PE credit to their dance teams currently. These include North Olmsted, Brunswick, Olmsted Falls, Avon, Westlake, Midview, Parma Senior High, Fairview. So a lot of schools are doing this. I'm hoping that we can make this happen for our students as well.
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Tammy O'Neill. I live at 8492 Barber Drive in Strongsville. And I have a daughter that is a senior on the dance team right now, and I have a daughter that is a sophomore at UC, and she was a member of the dance team also for 4 years. I think now my daughter's also a golfer, so she gets her PE credit. That's not been the situation for me, but I think what I've seen in the last several years is the Strongsville High School dance team has lost out to a lot of fabulous, very high-skilled dancers because it's been considered a club, and it really hasn't had the credibility of a sport, which it is. And these dancers know that it's a sport because they put in all of this time and hours outside of school, in addition to inside of school. And I think that they've lost out on the opportunity to have a lot of great dancers on the dance team and excel in that area because it just hasn't had that consideration of being a sport and getting the PE credit. And with getting the PE credit, I think that would give the coach a lot more accountability with her dancers, you know, to hold them accountable for being at practices and, you know, showing up and putting the time in and doing the extra work. I think if the school would give it more consideration and giving that PE credit and considering it a sport, you'll see the quality of the dance team really excel through the roof.
Thank you. Cameron, I mean, can you look
Yeah,
into that and get back to them? And
First of all, Mackenzie, I just want to publicly thank you for the work that you've done with the dance team. You truly have done a phenomenal job, and I know you volunteer your time and a lot of energy and effort to it, so thank you for what you do, and they're phenomenal, the work that the kids are doing. You're exactly correct in terms of the law change. What happens is the law changes, then our policy company shares those updates with us, so we actually have those policy updates, the suggestions, and probably in the next month or so, we'll meet with the policy committee to review those. So what I can share with you is that you're exactly right. Show choir and junior ROTC was added. I'll add on the agenda for the discussion of the policy committee to talk about the dance team. But ultimately, what will happen is the policy committee will recommend a draft policy. We'll talk about it. And we will decide as a group there whether we feel dance team should or should not be included, as well as show choir, as well as Air Force Junior ROTC, because as you noted, that's a local decision. The law is given that option, but it's a local decision. So we will do that. If it is decided to put dance team on there, just so you are aware, no changes would go into effect until the 2020-21 school year. With that, once the policy gets adopted, because we're already in the middle of a school year, and as I think you shared, there are specific requirements. You can't do a combination of PE classes and PE waiver. It's got to be one or the other. So keep your eye out for it. Our policy meetings are public meetings. So if you'd like to come be a part of that, you know, Mackenzie, I'll share that with you just so you're aware, and you guys can come to the meeting and be there. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like you're in the audience, but the board members typically give an opportunity to give feedback or to share. But that will be something we'll review here in the next few months.
Thank you.
thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Mr.
Appreciate
Naso?
it. Yeah.
Cameron and I actually talked about it. I forget when we spoke about
Yeah.
it, but you can stay there or not.
But we spoke about it because I saw that show choir was added, et cetera. I can go on the record and say, I'm all for dance being given the waiver also. Just to be clear, the waiver is because it's a physical activity and, you know, the state of Ohio realizes that our students are spending a lot of time, and so it became redundant. It's not to say it's not important or what have you, but if you're in these athletic sports, junior ROTC has a physical education component to it. You're already meeting the requirements as a student that physical education is supposed to teach. And so it's a way to be practical, and I'm all for show choir having it. I'm all for any activity that meets the burden. There's no reason we wouldn't give that flexibility to our students. So I don't anticipate it not coming and being approved by the board. I don't anticipate the policy committee not recommending it. I do have a quick question. The STEP team that started at basketball, how active are they?
I'm not sure.
Because if they meet the burden of doing it, then that's something we can also consider. The one caveat, and you know, this is the mechanics that we'll have to be aware of, is assuming we do give the waiver, it's a 2-year commitment, and that would be something that whatever the students would have to think long and hard about, because if they don't do it for 2 years, then the physical ed requirement kicks in, and all of a sudden you're scrambling or you can't graduate. So that's just something I think we'll want to make sure we, assuming we go through the steps and approve it, we'll want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. I would hate for someone to quit a second year and then suddenly they can't graduate.
Yep.
But I don't anticipate any reason why we wouldn't support it. But thanks
I'd
for
be-
all the hard work.
I'd be in full support of it too. The one thing you have to be cautious of is that although you get the waiver from the PE, you don't get the waiver from the credit. So you have to pick up that extra credit to make sure that you have enough credits to graduate, correct?
I'd have to check, I don't,
I know, because I know, it happened with my daughter. I know for a
Yeah.
fact that you
I'm
don't
not
you don't get credit for it, but you don't have to take it, so it frees you up to do something else,
Yeah.
right? So that's the thing.
You still have to meet all the
You're right.
requirements,
Yep.
so.
Cool.
If you're that busy with dance, I'm sure you're that busy and it won't be an issue.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brings us to approval of minutes. We have the September 5th and the September 19th regular board meeting minutes. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
First by George, second by Duke. Any discussion? We've all read them. George, take roll.
Mr. Grozan?
Yes.
Colonel Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludwig?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mr. Naso?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, brings us to treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Naso. I have a few items for your consideration tonight. The first one, which can be found in Exhibit A, is the financial report for month ending August 31st, 2019, followed by item B, which is the financial report for month ending September 30th, 2019, which can be found in Exhibit B. Item C, approval of new funds for fiscal year 20. I have two. The first one is Fund 467, which is the Student Wellness and Success Funds. If you recall from the governor's budget, the governor added additional dollars for student wellness and success funds. And just recently, the auditor's office has ruled that these funds should be accounted for separately in a different fund, which they assigned the fund number to 467 versus the general fund. So it's just creating the new fund and shifting the funds over. And then the second fund is 599-9120 for year 3 of the Striving Readers Comprehensive Literacy Grant, which the grant year is October 1st through September 30th. Item D is Student Activities Budget Program Purpose and Goals for fiscal year 20 for the Strongsville Stampede. This was a current existing one, but it wasn't in the annual budget last month due to the club didn't have an advisor at the time. The previous advisor left the district last year, and Mr. Brian Ben has stepped up to be the advisor for this year. So just recently agreed to that. So we were able to prepare a budget, which is found in Exhibit C. And then item E is the amendments to the permanent appropriation, which were for the reasons in C and D. So with that, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. One thing on the wellness.
Yeah.
Money, that's the new money that came out of the new budget. I was having a conversation with State Senator Matt Dolan, who was instrumental in getting that money put in there. And he was interested in what we planned on doing with the money. I said, well, we hadn't really figured that out yet, but I told him when we did, we would send him a letter, or we'd report back to him what good we did with it. So,
Right.
because he was interested in what the benefits were gonna be, so he could have that information. So
Right.
when we do figure out exactly how we're gonna deploy those funds, it'd be nice to get him a nice letter to let him know what we're doing.
Okay, and we just recently met as an administrative team to discuss the options, how to spend those dollars.
Okay.
So, right now, there's a few programs we're looking at.
You don't
currently
have
in
to go into it, but
research stage.
just make sure he knows.
the-
So.
Okay, will do. And that concludes my report.
All right. Superintendent's report, timely information.
Thank you, Mr. Naso. Some upcoming dates. It's hard to believe, but we're already into concert season. So fall concerts start next week on Wednesday with the high school orchestra. Then the middle school orchestra follows, and then high school choir at the same time. So if you haven't been out to hear our orchestra program and our choirs, I mean, just phenomenal. So it would be a great evening, whether you have kids in the district or not, to go out and hear those musical groups. Friday, October 25th is our first early release day of the school year. For the majority of our students, they're released an hour early. This gives us an opportunity to do some extended professional development work with our staff. Aaron and Jenny have worked together for some great experiences for our teachers to work through on that date, and those times are listed there. And I always do a voice shout out to the parents to remind them that kids are ready for pickup or to arrive home an hour earlier on that Friday, and we'll do that again. And again, if you want to keep the music going, on Saturday, October 26th, there's a beautiful showcase of choirs. And the high school show choir participates in that as well. So it'd be a great event to hear a lot of our talented students perform on that Saturday. A lot of athletics, a lot of postseason play is starting. So check at strongsvilleathletics.org to see where our athletes are at or where they're at in the state competitions. But it's been a pretty successful fall season altogether for our teams, and we're proud of the work that they've done. So check out the tournament games as those get started, or the regular season games that are still going on. We've got a home football game on Friday at Packatan Stadium for those that want to come out and check out our football team. And then finally, on Monday, October 28th, our annual Greet and Treat is being held. And Jenny, you want to share some of the things that will be going on with Greet and Treat?
Sure. I just really want to thank a lot of our groups and clubs and support within the community, because I think we have over 35 tables that are going to be manned with lots of candy. And actually, a lot of our tables are going to do a non-candy treat for any students with allergies, so they'll have something for everyone. I do want to thank Zoop and BW3s and Nothing But Cakes, because they will be there giving some samples. A lot of our parents get some dinner as they go through. So we're excited. I think this is our 4th year doing it, and it's just a free event. We do ask for a non-perishable food item for the food bank as a donation or a monetary donation to our food bank to support their work. And just looking forward to it. It's always cute to see all the kids in their costumes.
Excellent.
Jenny, do you need any help for the Greet and Treat? Do you need any volunteers?
I think, thanks to our staff, we have a lot of volunteers and obviously a lot of people coming, volunteering their time to man their tables and showcase their groups and clubs. But we would just like you to show up and enjoy the event.
Okay, thank you.
Don't scare the children, George.
Yeah.
Over a mask, come on.
Okay.
And I was privy to the new pathway to go through to get candy and treats, so it seems like a winner that we're going to keep everybody, no matter how many come to inside and warm while they're waiting to get through the lines. So appreciate all the work Dan and Jenny and all the community groups and school groups have done to prepare for that event, and it's always a great evening. And that's what's happening between now and our next board meeting.
All right.
So continuing on with business services, Steve, if you come up for your report for this month.
Could you lead off with a update on the GPS on the buses?
Right now, we are anticipating the installation to be happening within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then after that, we will be able to release a beta test of the Here Comes the Bus app, and then release to the whole community, hopefully within a month or so after that.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so tonight, I just have some gifts that have been given to the school district from various organizations and individuals. The First Lutheran Church of Strongsville Kids Hope donated miscellaneous school supplies to the students of Whitney Elementary School. First Lutheran Church of Strongsville donated miscellaneous school supplies valued at approximately $350 to the students of Sarar Elementary School. The district received an anonymous ongoing donation of coffee and associated miscellaneous supplies. And the Mano family donated fabric valued at approximately $50 to the Sarar Elementary School Makerspace. Thank you.
And I'd just like to give some context to one of the donations. The coffee and associated miscellaneous supplies, that's for our students with disabilities, have a coffee shop that they run at the high school and at the middle school. So these are supplies that are going to support that program and the great experience they're having in terms of job readiness skills. So that's what that, although it'd be lovely for us just to have coffee, it is to support one of our programs. And we're very appreciative of the generous donation from the family that made that.
I've seen that program. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
It is, it's
Yeah.
great. That came from our teachers, and it's just been a great addition to what we do here. Next up, we have Erin Green, Director of Curriculum, with her report for the month. Erin?
Hi, good evening. Tonight I have 10 items for your consideration. Items 1 through 6 are all service agreements between neighboring private schools and local agencies that receive federal title monies. So these are found in Exhibits E through J and are all pass-through funds, meaning we're the fiscal agent, but it's no cost to our district for these agreements. Items 7 and 8 are student-teacher placements for Kent State University and Baldwin-Wallace University. And these are to be placed with host teachers in our buildings in the district. And items 9 and 10 are both overnight trips for the high school varsity hockey team. They will be traveling to Bowling Green, Ohio, and Columbus in this month of November coming up. Transportation is provided by parents, and the expenses will be paid by Strongsville Hockey Parent Association. Is there anything you want more detail on with any of those items? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Erin. We have no items under student services this month, so Assistant Superintendent Jenny Pelko will have the human resource report. Jenny?
Good evening. I have the following items under Human Resources for your consideration. Under E1, the resignation of a non-certificated staff. E2, appointment for certificated staff. Appointments for non-certificated staff. Appointment for administrative substitute.
I love the name under that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's. Under continuing appointments for certificated substitutes, appointments for non-certificated substitutes, appointments for certificated supplemental contracts paid upon completion. Under E3, changes in hours for non-certificated staff. E4, changes in salary for certificated staff. These are our educational upgrades. Under E5, medical leaves for certificated, medical leave for leadership, medical leaves for non-certificated. Under E6, unpaid leaves for non-certificated staff. Under E7, volunteer chaperones and mentors. And under E8, we did have a correction. There was a change in hours, or change in days actually, to one of our bus drivers from the agenda from September 19th. So that concludes my report, unless you have any
And
questions.
I assume all the medical leaves are documented with doctor.
Yes.
You have to get your doctor to provide documentation.
Yeah, they meet with me personally, and we go through and we get the medical documentation back, and then I officially approve the leave.
Okay.
Jenny, if it's okay, in some future meeting, I would really appreciate a review or update on the definitions of these different leaves that we approve, like the
Sure.
unpaid versus the medical, I know FMLA and all that stuff, because there's several different categories they
Sure.
always fall into.
Sure.
And they can be confusing. So,
Thank you.
And then finally, we do
I-
have, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I had a quick question. Seems like there's more volunteers, chaperones than on a usual agenda. Is there a specific project, or we just have a bunch of them?
I know we have a lot of field trips happening in the district, so I'm looking at Aaron, because I know a lot of our parents are coming in to get fingerprinted for those. So
Okay.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
And that's something to highlight, that to be approved, you have to go through a background check and be fingerprinted, et cetera.
Yep.
And it's for a 5-year period. And then where it says instruct students, anytime that occurs, we're informing the parents of the students, correct?
Yes.
And the volunteers for chaperones and mentors, isn't a number of these going for the Washington DC trip?
I'm not sure. I know they do sometimes come in to get fingerprinted with us,
Okay.
but I don't know that these particular ones are.
Okay, thank you.
And just to continue on with what Richard's comments were, whenever we have field trips where we have non-school employees that are going to be in groups that are not directly with school employees, that's when we have this. So if we're going to Mapleside Farms, right? Kindergarten went to Mapleside Farms, you may take different groups and do different activities. So we want to make sure that we have volunteers that are background checked. And so we do not have volunteers that are coming in and instructing in our schools, not in the sight of our staff. This is for the field trips. And then finally, our Director of Instructional Technology does have an item he'd like to update the board on the work that he's been doing in terms of our Chromebook one-to-one initiative. So welcome, Dave, on your first ever board presentation in your new role.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you an update on our one-to-one that we recently finished. We are now a district that can say we're one-to-one from grades 1 through 12.
Wow.
Our high school has been one-to-one for a couple years now. This year, that currently means there's 1,945 devices in use in our high school. Over the summer, the previous middle school principal and the previous director of instructional technology decided that they would move the middle school one-to-one as well. That was to meet the teachers' needs, the demands for the technology, and help curtail some of the vandalism that was going on between the shared devices. So before I got here, the middle school budget and the instructional technology budget came together and purchased additional Chromebooks. And so before I got here in July, the middle school was one-to-one through all the grades. That means there's 1,262 devices being used in our middle school today. And then when I came in, we started doing an audit of our devices, and we realized that we had more devices in our district than we actually needed at that time. The previous goal was to have 80% of our classrooms in our elementary schools have devices, but we could meet that and more. So thanks to the IT techs, Mark Ohm, Rich Miltner, for fixing some additional Chromebooks from the middle school and high school. The middle school media assistant, Jill Peck, and the high school media assistants, Chrissy Merrill and Mary Beth Kramer, for going through their inventory and giving us some extras that they had. And then Teresa Williamson for registering the devices with their new classrooms, and Jenny Zacharias and Diane Mazzarini for actually being our elementary school techs who made the carts for the classrooms. So that entailed going through the classrooms, pulling out some additional computers, putting in additional computers. So if the classroom had a cart, it could be between a half hour to 2 hours to get that cart ready. We did, however, have to make some new carts. So for that to happen, that's a process that takes between 4 and 5 hours for these. But for this initiative, we did not have to purchase any additional Chromebooks. These Chromebooks were in our district. We just had to reallocate where they were. And I did this for the purpose to maximize student usage. So what we did was we took some of the devices that were in the media centers, some of the Encore classes, put them in classrooms. So now if an Encore media center needs the device, the teacher can roll the cart down to those centers, or the student can carry them themselves. We did have to purchase 5 carts for our elementary schools because of our growth this summer. So with that, we can say that we now have 2,286 devices being used in our elementary schools today. So that means through grades 1 through 12, we have 5,451 total Chromebooks in use, possibly on a daily basis.
Did you say 5,551?
5,451.
400.
We do have extras in every building too to accommodate breakages or loans, or new student enrollments that we can give out. So we have a larger number than that, but those are the ones that we can account for possible daily use.
So in less than 3 months that you've been here, less than 4 months that you've been here, you got us to 1-to-1.
By just reallocating some of our devices, yes.
Nice.
Excellent.
So giving context to that, what Dave is sharing is the carts came in like 30s, right?
Yeah, there are 30 Chromebooks per cart.
So when you look at a lot of our elementary classes are not 30 students. And the difficulty was, how do you store them? How do you power them? You know, and so if you take those 5 extra Chromebooks that we have in most of our classrooms, he was able to problem solve that. And, you know, given a little context to what does that mean to teachers at the elementary level? Because elementary 1-to-1 doesn't mean kids have a device and they get to keep that device. It's in a card in the classroom,
Correct.
correct?
Same as our middle school. The middle school students go to their homeroom or first period, they get their device, it's with them the whole day, and they return it at the end of the day. In our elementary schools, each classroom has a cart, and the teachers, most teachers have now assigned them a number on the cart, and the kids get that when they need it, take it to their seats or their station, use it, and then return it. And they do that, you know, a couple times a day if need be for what their situation is.
And the great thing, if you're a teacher, you need to, you're planning for the day. And, you know, last year, it was not predictable if they'd have access to those Chromebooks because we would be sharing them. But now when you know that I have these Chromebooks, my kids have access to them, I can proactively plan on how we're going to integrate technology into the lesson that we're doing. And I greatly appreciate Dave's leadership and work in supporting that. Dave, you want to give a little preview of what's happening with kindergarten?
My team and I, we were going to do an audit later this year, but because of this initiative, we did move it up upon request. And so my team, which is myself, the 2 elementary school techs, are in the process of doing an audit of what their current numbers are in their classrooms, what number of devices they have, what kind of devices they have, and then also what programs they mostly use, and then what's the functionality of those devices, or the functionality of the programs, and then what devices would best suit their needs.
Excellent.
But going off what Cameron said, one of the things I really did enjoy was I had a teacher who I would assume is a veteran teacher in the district, said that now she can plan to use technology in her classroom. The veteran teacher was purposely not trying to innovate in her classroom because she could not have the opportunity to, or she might not, because she might not have had the Chromebooks that day. So now, especially with, you know, we got a large group of younger teachers this year, fresh out of college, who have been trained on these new methodologies and pedagogy that now they can come in and directly use it in their classroom.
What kind of technology are the teachers themselves having? Do they have Chromebooks, laptops, desktops? What are they powering all this with?
Every classroom has a desktop, and then I believe every teacher also has a Chromebook. So they can simulate the experience the students have on the Chromebook, but they also have the desktop, because the desktop is what's connected to their smart board in their classroom, not their Chromebook. And some teachers and classrooms have additional tablets as well.
I just want to, you hear that number, it's a large number. It's a large number of devices. But this work started 5 years ago with Vicki, and it's continuing on with Dave, that we've worked, before the devices came, we worked on how do we effectively integrate technology into our classroom so it's not just a nice tool to have or a cool piece of equipment, but how do we enhance our instruction? So it is rewarding to see, you know, where we've come under Vicki's leadership in the past 4 years, where Dave is continuing to grow that program, and to see that these instructional resources and tools are an integrated and integral component of our instruction rather than a separate and isolated nice to have. So it is a big number. It is an expense that I appreciate the board invested in a while ago with additional finances, and they are being utilized and supported in the classroom by our students, and we're seeing good gains because of the integration of technology. So thank you, Dave.
Thank you, nice job.
Yeah.
With that, that concludes my report.
Excellent. All right, that brings us to the report on the Polaris Center. Richard?
Quick report. This week was the grand opening or the ribbon cutting ceremony That occurred on Tuesday, and it was just a wonderful event. Wanted to thank Cameron for being able to attend. A lot of the superintendents from all the various schools were able to attend, architects, the construction crew, and a number of stakeholders for Polaris. But we had a really nice ribbon cutting ceremony to open what we're calling the new Polaris. What I want to share is although it was nice to have that ribbon cutting ceremony, it also was our Business Advisory Council get together, and it's the annual event now. It was on hiatus for 3 years, but every program at Polaris, adult and high school program, the instructor or the teacher has their own council made up of industry professionals in the community. So the dental assisting program has five working dentists that advise and answer questions and just help make sure the program is vibrant, help make sure the program is teaching current skills, and just give that input so that every program leads to a positive career outcome, which is our mission. But it was great to bring everybody back, show off the new building, but also show off that this is going to have lasting impact for a generation of students that choose to attend Polaris. So that was exciting. And then yesterday we had an open house that was open to the entire community that went real well. So we're very excited about the new building and you know, the next 25, 30 years to come. And that completes my Polaris report.
Thank you. Legislation?
I will highlight that it was either yesterday or the day before the Cup-Patterson report. The first committee went to the Finance Committee to start discussing it, so that process is in play. They highlighted that they're looking to add $1.5 billion to education from the state. They're also talking about that formula is going to have an equity factor to make sure that it is distributed equitable, and that's something that Strongsville will have to pay very close attention to, because in the past it's always been determined at a state level that Strongsville's receiving too much from the state. So we'll continue to watch that and continue to advocate for Strongsville's best interests.
Okay. Jane, that brings us to City Council.
Okay, thank you. There will be a public hearing regarding ordinance 2019-154, which concerns accessory buildings on property and their uses, which is unenclosed structures like gazebos. So if you're interested in that and having your opinion heard, it's November 18th at 8 p.m. at the City Council meeting. They also passed an ordinance 2019-159 that would allow the fines to be increased for those motorists that pass school buses, and that was created with the help of Dr. Ryaba and our police chief to present that. So it went from a maximum of $500 for an offense up to $750, and that would be imposed at a judge's discretion. So that's a good thing. So make sure you do not pass those school buses. They also had a resolution to support National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is October. And then a reminder that Halloween is October 31st in the city of Strongsville, with trick or treat being from 6 to 8 p.m. So just be mindful of people and children running across streets on that evening, because it will be dark. And that concludes my city council report.
PTA?
PTA had a meeting, George did not go. The only real announcement is, again, they're going to be offering grants to staff and teachers in the district. Their budget is $6,000, and if you are in the district and have a worthy endeavor, you can submit your application, and it has to be in by November 1st. So that's my PTA report.
Student achievement?
Oh, student achievement. Oh, gosh. So exciting. I don't know if you've had a chance to see Dr. Ryba's 60 Seconds with the Superintendent for the reading program at the high school, but Kelly Riblet, who is an English teacher at the high school, saw a problem that her students really weren't engaging in reading enough. So she took a class on successful independent reading, and she's created a program with all the other English teachers to advocate for reading. And so they have set aside time in the classroom for independent reading. And she scoured garage sales and book sales to build up a library. So if anybody has any books that you'd like to donate for the high school for reading, the students can just pick a book, and she's had 50 students borrow books already, so she's seeing an impact. She's also, to encourage reading, invited other staff members to come and have their book of choice and have book talks. So she's seeing that there is results, but if anyone else would like to donate a book, she'd gladly accept that. And that's where we are for our literacy improvement.
Excellent. As far as the Strongsville Education Foundation, I know they had a meeting. One of the things they're going to be doing, we'll look for them to be selling, I think at some of the upcoming football games and other events, the Ville T-shirts. Those were donated to us, essentially, and we get the full proceeds from the sale, comes back to the school. So look for those. Are cool shirts. I got a couple of them, and so be looking for that. I don't know if there's any other.
No, they spent a lot of time talking about their fundraising activities for this school year and just bouncing around a few ideas. So Jockeys and Juleps is obviously going to stay and be one of their mainstays, but they've got a couple other ideas that they're working to develop. And they've also just launched, they do education foundation grants as well to help support educator projects around the district. So they just updated to a new Google form that's a little more user-friendly. And so they've sent that out, and teachers and staff members have been applying for those grants as well. And we appreciate, as we talk about, they fund our field trips in certain grade levels across the district with the proceeds from their fundraising efforts. And so we appreciate the work that they're doing in that area as well as the grants.
All right, that brings us committee reports. The Finance Committee meeting will be October 30th, right here at 6:30. No policy meeting time has been set. Facility Committee meeting will be November 12th, 6:30 here. And the Business Advisory Committee will be.
14th.
What's that?
November 14th.
It says 12th here. 14th? 14th.
Or 12th.
Let's check.
Is it the 14th or 12th, Don?
Okay. Well, such is life.
Thursday is the 14th.
Okay, so it's the 12th.
No.
The 12th, okay.
Well, that's
Oh, it's the
Tuesday. The
That's a
14th is a
Tuesday.
Thursday, the 12th is a Tuesday, so, okay.
It is the 14th.
The 14th, we're moving it to the 14th.
14th, you're right.
The Facilities Committee will be November 14th, 6:30 right here. The Business Advisory Committee will be November 1st at the high school. With that, brings us to the consent calendar. All items marked with an asterisk are approved in a single vote. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Jane, for the second. Any comments on the items? Discussion? George, take roll.
Colonel Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludwig?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mr. Naso?
Yes.
Mr. Grosjean?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to board policies. We have some first readings on the advertisement, commercial activities, and promotional political activity policies. Those are on first reading. There'll be 3 readings on those. Board of Education, other.
I have one. The Chamber Scholarship Dance is coming up on, I think it's the 7th of December, and tickets are available on the Chamber website for those who want to go. It's a great activity, a good party for everybody, and there's a lot of money that is available and is given out to our kids in the spring. So,
December 6th.
December
December
6th.
Oh, yeah. No,
We're
December
date
7th. It's
challenged.
Pearl Harbor Day.
6th is the Friday.
Okay, it's a Friday. Yeah, on the website it says 7th, but, okay.
All right.
I'll be there on the 6th. I don't
I'll
know
be
if
there on the
anybody will be
6th.
there with me. Have fun.
Party of one, okay.
Duke will meet you there on the 7th.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Mashad's all alone.
Any others?
I just got an update earlier in the meeting. I want to congratulate the girls volleyball and girls soccer. Both won their Greater Cleveland Conference Championships, which is awesome.
That's great.
And we need to wish good luck to junior Michael Lee, who is competing in the state golf tournament this weekend. So good luck to Michael.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay.
I just want to say this was a great meeting we had tonight. We received some nice gifts from the community. I'm just going through some of the agenda items. We added we're going in the process of adding show choir and dance to the PE. We had more chaperones approved because field trips are back, and that's a beautiful thing. And then we got the one-to-one on a Chromebook. That's a pretty good meeting. So I'm excited about all that.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, everybody. Any other comments before we move on to the next board meeting? Will be November 7th at 7 o'clock right here. And then we'll have another one on November 21st right here. We have no need for executive session. Goodness. And with that, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, George. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Jane. Any discussion on adjournment? No. George, take roll.
Mr. Grozan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludwig?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mr. Naso?
Yes.
Clerk Evans?
You bet.
Meeting adjourned at 8:20 PM.